So imagine someone steals your life savings,
Oh, man. Brutal.
right? Or maybe a business partner you've trusted for like 20 years just deeply betrays you.
Yeah, worst nightmare scenario.
Exactly. Now imagine a philosopher looking you dead in the eye and telling you that despite all of that, you haven't actually been wronged.
Wow. I mean, that is a bold thing to say to someone.
It really is. But today, we are doing a deep dive into a text that dares to make exactly that claim. And it is going to challenge some of the most basic, deeply ingrained instincts you have about fairness, about justice, and especially about victimhood.
It's an incredibly provocative stance because, the instinct to feel wronged when bad things happen, it isn't just common. It feels like a fundamental law of human nature.
Right, like gravity.
Yeah, exactly. But the material we are diving into today argues that this very instinct is actually the core reason we suffer.
So we're going deep into a short, intensely concentrated philosophical document today. It was written on September 24th, 2010 by an author named Su Feng.
And just for context, the translation we are working from was edited by Kinyu.
Yes, thank you. The piece is titled Facing Reality, or in Chinese, Zimian Zhenxi. And the mission of this deep dive is to completely deconstruct the singular, radical cure for human suffering that this text presents.
It's a fascinating cure, too.
It is, but I want to warn you right up front. This document does not coddle its reader,
Yeah.
like at all. It demands complete, unadulterated internal accountability.
Yeah, it requires a fundamental rewiring of how you perceive your relationship with the world around you. Because look, we all experience pain, right?
Oh, absolutely.
We all face troubles, anxiety, worries, or, fears in our day-to-day lives. And it's just the most universal human desire to want to escape all of that.
To just find a place where life is carefree.
Exactly. And Shuifeng addresses that desire immediately, right out of the gate, stating that the only path to that freedom is to, quote, face reality.
Well, and if we are going to understand how someone could possibly claim that you have never been wronged, we have to start with how this text defines that phrase, facing reality.
Because it's not what you'd think.
No, not at all. Because we hear that phrase all the time. Usually when someone tells you to face reality, they mean you need to wake up and look at how harsh or unfair the outside world is.
Right, like face the cold, hard facts out there.
Exactly. But the text makes a massive thematic pivot here. Facing reality, in Shuifeng's context, has absolutely nothing to do with the outside world.
None.
It means recognizing that you are imperfect. It means understanding that the root of all your suffering lies entirely in those personal imperfections.
Yeah, instead of looking out the window at the storm, the author's telling you to look in the mirror. The text explicitly states, the world is not at fault. The fault lies within us.
Okay, let's unpack this, because I think the best way to visualize what the author is saying is to think about it like writing computer code.
No, I like that.
Yeah, so imagine a programmer sitting at a desk, right? They run a script they just spent weeks writing. They hit enter, and the program instantly crashes.
Total failure.
Right. Now, a bad programmer gets furious. They yell at the computer monitor. They complain that the keyboard is sticky.
Blaming the hardware.
Exactly. They blame the operating system, the compiler, everything. They look at all the external factors and declare that the environment is unfair and broken.
Which is just a defense mechanism, really.
Totally.
By blaming the monitor, the programmer protects their own ego from the reality that, well, they made a mistake. And this highlights the underlying psychological mechanism at play here, which is cognitive dissonance.
Right, because nobody wants to be the bad guy in their own story.
Precisely. The human brain really struggles to hold two conflicting ideas at the same time. The idea, I am a competent, good person, conflicts violently with the idea, I completely ruined the situation and caused my own misery.
So the brain just short circuits.
Yeah. To resolve that tension, the brain instinctively invents an external villain. It is the path of least resistance.
But the thing is, you simply cannot fix the bug until you stop yelling at the monitor and start looking closely at your own script. I mean, the external environment, the computer itself, is just executing what you gave it.
Just following instructions.
Right. The glitch is the missing semicolon or the bad variable right there in the imperfect code that you wrote.
And in Shuifeng's philosophy, the monitor and the hardware represent the external world. The point is that the world is inherently not at fault. It is just operating based on its own laws.
It's neutral.
Exactly, neutral. When you experience the crash of suffering, anxiety, or emotional pain, the glitch is internal. And while it might feel brutal initially to tell someone who is hurting that the fault lies within them, Look at the profound function of that shift.
Well, it moves control directly back into your own hands.
Yes. If the root of your suffering lies in the external world, if the world is at fault for your unhappiness, then you are entirely helpless.
Because you can't control the world.
You cannot control the universe. You can't control society, the weather, the economy, or, the actions of other people. But if the root of your suffering lies in your own imperfections, you have the power to rewrite your own script.
You transition from being a victim of unpredictable external forces to becoming the architect of your own internal experience.
Which is incredibly empowering.
It is. But if we accept that the glitch is in our own code, we are forced to confront a really uncomfortable reality about victimhood. And Zufeng doesn't shy away from this at all.
Not even a little bit.
No. Which brings us to what has to be the most challenging, controversial line in this entire document. The text states, quote, "In this universe, not a single soul is truly wronged."
Yeah. That is the line that just makes you stop in your tracks.
It really is.
It feels almost offensive to our modern sensibilities.
Well, I have to say, I am struggling with this, and I have to challenge this on behalf of anyone listening right now. Let's go back to the scenario I mentioned at the very beginning.
The business partner.
Yeah, imagine you have a business partner. You trust them implicitly. One day, you discover they have been embezzling money for years. They drain your accounts, they ruin your business, and they disappear.
Devastating.
Completely. The physical theft is an undeniable fact. The betrayal is a fact. So how can you read a text that says, not a single soul is truly wronged, and apply it to that situation? I mean, how is that person not a victim?
It's the natural friction point of this whole philosophy, right?
Yeah.
And to understand it, we have to look at the mechanics of how the text separates an event from the suffering that follows.
Okay, separate the event from the
Yeah.
subject.
The author is not denying that bad events occur in the physical world. The text openly acknowledges that misfortunes and tragedies happen. The money is gone. The business is ruined. Those are physical, external events. But Sui Feng makes a critical distinction. The physical event is not the same thing as the suffering.
And the text specifies this, actually. It says, when we feel pain in our hearts, we must look within ourselves for the cause. It is specifically targeting the pain in our hearts.
Right, because the event is just an event. It is a data point in the universe. But the friction, the sleepless nights, the burning anger, the destruction of your trust in future partners, the feeling of being humiliated, that lingering pain in your heart is a reaction generated by your own internal framework.
So the pain is a secondary reaction.
Exactly. Why are you suffering? Perhaps it is your ego feeling foolish that you were tricked. Perhaps it is your profound attachment to the money and the status it brought you. Or, perhaps it is your rigid expectation of how other people should behave.
Wait, so if I'm understanding this right, so Vang is saying the tragedy isn't the betrayal itself, but my own ego's reaction to it. Like, my attachment to the money and my pride are the actual sources of the pain, not the business partner.
According to this framework, yes.
Wow.
The business partner caused a financial event. Your internal imperfections, your attachments, your pride, your expectations caused the suffering. Therefore, you are never truly wronged by the universe because the universe didn't cause your internal emotional agony. Your own internal flaws did.
The universe just presented a situation, and your internal code crashed when trying to process it.
That's a perfect way to put it.
But man, that is an incredibly hard pill to swallow. I mean, it strips away every ounce of the comfort we get from being the victim.
It does. It really does. And what adds immense weight to this assertion is the context Stufeng provides. The author states, "I have witnessed all the misfortunes in the human world. I have carefully observed and deeply reflected on human suffering."
So this isn't just armchair philosophy.
No, this isn't someone writing from a naive, sheltered perspective, claiming bad things don't happen or that trauma isn't real. Stufeng has looked directly at the darkest, most tragic aspects of life and still arrived at this conclusion.
That the ultimate tragedy is our refusal to acknowledge our own flaws in how we process the world.
Exactly. We refuse to look at the bad code.
We just keep yelling at the monitor.
Yeah, constantly yelling at the monitor. And because taking that level of absolute accountability is so painful, we default to the disease that Sufeng believes is ruining our lives.
Shifting the blame.
Yeah.
When we get hurt, pointing the finger outward requires zero self-reflection. It is the ego's ultimate preservation tactic.
But the text gives a massive, definitive warning about this reflex. Shuefeng writes, "Shifting responsibility onto others is easy, but doing so guarantees that your suffering will never disappear.
That's a heavy warning.
It is. And I think it's crucial to look at the original Chinese phrasing here, which is Bazerin tuge taranrongi danayangzu ziji de tongku yongwan bui shaoxi.
Right.
The word young one literally means forever or eternally. Your suffering will forever not disappear. You are guaranteeing that you will be trapped in an endless loop.
And think about the mechanics of that loop.
Right.
If you never address the root cause, your own internal imperfections, your attachments, your brittle ego, you will simply keep generating the exact same suffering every single time you encounter friction in the world.
Because you carry the glitch with you. Exactly. You might get a new business partner, a new romantic relationship, or a new job, but because your internal code is still flawed, the moment something goes wrong, the program will crash again.
You are applying a Band-Aid to a mirror instead of cleaning the wound on your own face.
That's a great analogy.
Well, here's where it gets really interesting, though. Xu Feng doesn't just call this a tactical error or like a simple mistake in judgment. The language used to describe this habit of blaming others is intense.
Very intense.
The text says that living a life where you constantly shift responsibility is, quote, excessively hypocritical, illusory, vain, and deeply unfortunate.
Wow.
Yeah. Let's spend some time unpacking each of these four words because they build a really fascinating psychological profile of a person who refuses to face reality.
Okay, let's start with hypocritical. Why is it hypocritical to blame the world? Well, because we demand a level of perfection from the external universe, from society, from the economy, from our peers that we stubbornly refuse to demand from ourselves.
Oh, that's so true. We judge other people entirely by their actions and the outcomes they produce, but we judge ourselves by our supposedly good intentions.
Exactly. We want the monitor to display a flawless image while refusing to admit our code is an absolute mess.
You hold the universe to a standard you won't apply to your own mind.
Right.
And that connects directly to the second word, illusory. I love this one because it speaks to how the human brain literally constructs narratives. When you blame others, you are living in an illusion.
A total fantasy.
Yeah, you are actively building a false narrative where you are the flawless protagonist, the innocent bystander, and everyone else is the villain.
The brain is an incredible editor, isn't it? It will cut, splice, and rearrange memories to ensure the ego remains the hero of the story. But that story has no basis in the objective reality of how the universe actually operates.
You are living in a self-constructed matrix,
Pretty much.
which feeds perfectly into the third word, vain. It is pure vanity to believe that the universe is out to get you, or that you are so special that your suffering is someone else's fault.
And, there is a hidden perverse payoff to victimhood, and that is what the vanity refers to.
A payoff. How so?
Well, being a victim feels oddly good on some deep subconscious level because it grants you the moral high ground. It absolves you of the heavy lifting of self-improvement.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, if it's society's fault that I'm unhappy, I don't have to do the grueling work of changing my own habits or addressing my own flaws. I can just sit back in my vanity and complain.
But the cost of that vanity brings us to the final word, deeply unfortunate.
Yeah, that's the tragic part.
By choosing the hypocrisy, the illusion, and the vanity, you are actively choosing the suffering. The text actually says, by avoiding ourselves and failing to confront who we truly are, we condemn ourselves to endless suffering.
We condemn ourselves.
Right. The author views self-avoidance not just as a missed opportunity for growth, but as an actual condemnation. We are the judge and the jury handing down our own life sentence.
And this explains the stakes of Xu Feng's entire philosophy. It clarifies what we stand to gain if we actually manage to do this incredibly difficult work.
What's the payoff?
Early in the text, there is a promise of reaching what is called the heavenly kingdom. Now, in the framework of this document, the heavenly kingdom is not a physical location.
Right.
It is not an afterlife you travel to once you die. It is defined very clearly as a state of happiness, joy, freedom, and bliss that you can reach right now.
But you can't bring your ego with you. There's a toll booth on the road to that kingdom.
Yes, and the toll is your need to be right. It is your need to blame. Think back to our computer code analogy. The heavenly kingdom is an operating system running entirely without corrupted files.
It is pure frictionless execution.
Exactly. When a person refuses to admit their imperfections and blames others, they are introducing friction into the system. The text argues that the only way to reach that joy and freedom is to break the habit of blame.
So as long as you are shifting responsibility, you are dropping an anchor into a sea of suffering.
Such a good image. And the moment you take total, unflinching accountability for the pain in your heart, you cut the anchor. You free yourself.
Okay, so what does this all mean for us? How do you take a philosophical text from 2010 and actually apply it to your life today?
That's the big question.
The shortcut to being well-informed on Sri Thing's philosophy is incredibly simple to summarize, yet unbelievably difficult to execute.
Simple but not easy.
Right. The next time you encounter trouble, anxiety, or emotional pain, stop. Do not point the finger at society. Do not blame your boss, your partner, the economy, or the universe.
Just pause.
Yeah. Do not allow your brain to seek the path of least resistance. Look entirely within. Ask yourself what internal imperfection, what rigid expectation, or what fragile attachment is reacting to the external world to create this suffering.
It is a radical proposition. It requires you to strip away all the comforting excuses you have built up over a lifetime. It demands absolute, unflinching honesty with yourself.
You have to be willing to look at the ugliest parts of your own internal code without looking away.
You really do.
And that leads to a final provocative thought. I want to leave you with something for you to mull over that builds directly on what Weifeng has presented today.
I'm intrigued.
The author states very clearly that we fear to confront who we truly are, and that this fear keeps us locked in a cycle of suffering and blame. But think about what would happen if you stopped being afraid.
What if you just faced it?
Exactly. If you actually did confront every single one of your deepest imperfections without flinching, without making a single excuse, what would happen to your sense of self?
Wow. It's a profound question. Because if the act of complaining and assigning blame is so tightly bound up in our vanity and our illusions, who are we without those things?
If you took total 100% accountability for every ounce of pain in your heart, would the version of you that needs to complain simply cease to exist?
Bagito death.
Right. Would the identity you have built around being wronged, around being the victim of unfair circumstances, completely dissolve? Perhaps that total dissolution of the ego, that complete burning away of the part of you that blames the world, is exactly what Shu Feng means by entering the heavenly kingdom.
You don't go somewhere new.
No. The part of you that suffers just stops existing.
Once the illusions and the vanity are gone, what's left is just reality. And if reality is the only place where true freedom and bliss exist, then facing it isn't a punishment. It is the ultimate act of liberation.
We spend so much of our lives pointing an X-ray machine at the world, looking for the jagged fractures in the people around us or the society we live in. We want a clear map of what went wrong and exactly where it happened out there.
Yeah, we always look out there.
But Xuefeng is telling us that the fracture isn't out there. The jagged line is in the lens we are looking through. Until we fix the lens, everything we see will look broken. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Take care of yourselves, look inward, and we will see you next time.